May 2nd to May 9th, 1999 tornado outbreak. And this presentation is going to have particularly special detail on the Bridge Creek Moore F5 Oklahoma tornado. If May 3rd through May 4th of 99 sound familiar to you, simply put, good. Of course, as always, starting with the overview first. This event is also known as the Great Plains Outbreak by some NWSs. I have actually never heard of that being called this, but I also never really researched this outbreak until I made this, so, you know. The setup of this outbreak is seen here at the top right. My laser pointer going absolutely 0 FPS mode as this GIF is ruining everything that this laser pointer has to offer. And the tornado tracks around the Oklahoma City or OKC metro area is seen here at the middle. So the Great Plains outbreak, again from the 2nd to the 9th, would kill 50 people and injured just shy of 900, 895. This event would inflict $1.4 billion in damage. This, of course, from the 2nd to the 9th, was a week-long outbreak which produced a total of 152 tornadoes. And that is nearing super outbreak levels. However, this did not occur in just 18 hours, like what happened in 1974. This is over a week. This does not make it the longest outbreak in history, because a break of 6 hours is not allowed for an outbreak to continue. I know I've said this before, so you guys who have heard this before already know it, but for those of you new, of course, again, a period of 6 hours of no tornado activity is not allowed for an outbreak to continue. But if tornado activity resumes the next day, then those days are stitched together forever, how long that goes for. So aside from that, the main event of this week was on the 3rd to the 4th of May. 5 violent tornadoes were created, and 4 of them are notables. But first, I really want to start with the how, and then we're going to be going, sorry, not day by day, my mistake. I didn't mean to press down arrow there. So again, the setup is seen here at the upper right. Tornado tracks in Oklahoma this time, and also Kansas are seen here. But let's start here. Dews are in the 60s Fahrenheit in the morning, which is actually pretty normal. Specifically, if you have your temperatures around the 70s to 80s, that's going to actually feel relatively comfortable, so it's actually okay. However, a dry land was already in place in the morning, and a slight risk was issued from the SPC from the Kansas-Nebraska border all the way to northern Texas, and that would include just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Morning comes to an end, and sunshine becomes primary, which then destabilizes the atmosphere. Thanks, sun, for creating weather. Gross. This destabilization produced CAPE, convective available potential energy, of possibly 4,000 joules per kilogram or even more. For the record, 4,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE is considered extreme. 2,000 is where you're going to start to likely be seeing your events occur. Not tornado outbreak events, but just like thunderstorms. Anyways, at 11:15, a moderate risk was issued along the I-40 corridor of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. By 1500 of This is all of May the 3rd. Again, 1500 May the 3rd, NWS realizes that severe weather is imminent, and parts of the moderate risk becomes high risk, seen here in just Oklahoma, at 1600. At this point, a tornado watch is also issued, as Cape is near 6,000 joules per kilogram. 4,000 is extreme. 6,000 is incredible. Like, truly, absolutely ridiculous. Of course, now we're starting with our notables here. The first one being the Wellington to Wichita area Kansas F4. A freeze frame of the radar along with the tornado warning, which I can't read, is pictured here in the middle, with the full radar loop seen here, and this being the tornado that spawns with this central, the biggest, I guess, supercell that occurred right as it hits Kansas. This one right here that I'm circling with my laser pointer, if y'all can see that. But okay, besides that, this F4 would kill 6 people and would injure 150. This tornado tracked 39 kilometers, with the width maxing at 0.8 kilometers, which is half a mile. This tornado would destroy more than 7,000 buildings and destroyed more than 1,000. And therefore, because of all this damage, this tornado inflicted $150 million in damage. 2 pictures of the tornado is seen here at the top right and bottom left, both of which have extremely prominent wall clouds attached to them, given that this is the same tornado. And the top one, obviously in pink, I have roughly labeled that wall cloud. You can also see here, I'm going to track with my laser pointer, kind of started from the cloud base, edging down, then drops down the tornado itself, and kind of floats back up. This is a little bit less defined. It's more ovular than straight, but still. The second notable, which I don't have a picture of, so here have this picture from GOES 8 of some supercells with the more supercell highlighted. This is the south-southwest of Dover to Hennessy, Oklahoma F4. This tornado would kill 1 and would injure 6 people. Surprisingly short track for an F4. Well, I guess I shouldn't say for an F4, but surprisingly short track of 24 kilometers and had a max width of 0.8 kilometers. Again, that is half a mile. It said that 1/3 of the town of Dover was simply wiped away. And to put this in perspective of the damage an F4 can make, a steel reinforced concrete building only had a few walls after the tornado. And as you can imagine from an F4, mobile home frames were twisted beyond repair. I mean, even F1s can lift mobile homes. So, and this is exponentially more intense. An F4 is not just 4 times more intense, it is exponentially more intense, if I'm not mistaken. The third notable here is Cimarron City, which I always wanted to say cinnamon, but Cimarron City to east-northeast of Perry, Oklahoma F4. Pictured here with an extremely prominent horseshoe, which I've labeled here at this orange line. Measured in a maximum of 1.61 kilometers wide, which is just above a mile. Although you'll probably see just a mile, even though it's just more than that. But would kill 2 people and injure 26. This tornado, despite not exactly showing that in either of the 3 pictures that I have here, was a complex multi-vortex tornado, with some of these vortices having winds of 260 miles per hour. And yes, I skipped over a point because I want to emphasize it. This second point that I skipped here is that Doppler on wheels, which is what DOW stands for, recorded the largest ever core flow of a mile wide between peak velocities of the tornado on both sides. The core flow is literally just the flow of the updraft from the ground. And not to mention that this tornado had a 7-kilometer wide circle around it of winds that were 93 miles per hour. Both of these in total makes this tornado the largest ever in terms of wind field. Not the largest ever, as that belongs to the 2013 Moore, Oklahoma tornado. Oh, sorry, El Reno, my mistake. There was a 2013 Moore, Oklahoma tornado though. That tornado, the 2013 El Reno, was 2.6 miles wide. That is the largest ever tornado. This is the largest ever tornado in terms of wind field. So there's a difference, I promise. And we get to our last notable here, which happens to be the most powerful tornado ever recorded. It's the one they're going to be paying special attention to for obvious reasons. The Bridge Creek Moore, Oklahoma F5. The track of which is seen here at the middle, and right next to it is a picture of the tornado at max strength. Aftermath photos seen here in the middle, and a sequence of images from earliest on the left to latest on the right, seen at the bottom. This tornado, this monster, had winds measured at 301 plus or minus 20 miles per hour, recorded from Doppler on wheels. However, of course, there is a caveat to this. Because Doppler, Doppler, by the way, literally needs a clear view of sight. It can't have trees in the way. Doppler is just our eyes with benefits. Doppler on wheels recorded these winds around 100 or so feet above the ground, and due to friction, the wind speeds as you get closer and closer towards the ground decreases. So these winds were not as intense on the ground. This does not make it, however, not the most powerful. It is. It still is to this day. So aside from that, this tornado would kill 31 people indirectly and 4 more indirectly. It's a grand total of 35, and would injure 583. This tornado, this behemoth, annihilated 61 kilometers over the course of 85 minutes from 1823 or 623 to 1948 or 7:48 Central Daylight Time. As you may have assumed from the track pictured here at the upper middle, as well as the ratings that it has, this F5 was very inconsistent in strength. So was most of the time an F4, actually. That does not make it any less notable, though. This tornado, this absolute chonker, just absolutely behemoth. I know I've said that before, but just true monster. Destroyed more than 8,000 homes and more than 1,000 apartments. And yes, this is part 4A. Part 4B, again, still over this tornado. As you can see here, it very readily intensified to an F4 and had been an F4 for 6 miles before it hit Bridge Creek, Oklahoma. As you can see here through, let's see, get this, there we are, that right there. That was also when it was around its widest as well. As you can see, Moore is a close and southerly OKC metro area suburb, and that F5 portion is seen here that I'm circling with my laser pointer. So, due to the fact that it wasn't just an F5 but an F4 for most of its track, an F4 still produces a lot of scouring, which it did. And again, because it was an F4 for most of its track, it produced scouring for most of its track, and also produced many satellites. Many violent or F4 plus tornadoes tend to also produce satellites. And it procured a particular satellite that was around it for around 10 minutes, which is much longer than normal. Here, at the bottom left here are the remains of the Norman NWS. Thankfully, nobody from there died. And at the middle here, tornado emergency. As you can see, the last point here. This tornado created the tornado emergency. The first ever tornado emergency was issued for Oklahoma City because of this tornado on May 3rd, 1999. Now, on to the significance of this event. This is a pretty standard outbreak, except for the Moore F5 and the creation of the tornado emergency. I'll constantly say this. This outbreak, and specifically this tornado, the Moore F5, the cell of which seen here that I've labeled in purple from start to end, created the tornado emergency. And for those of you who don't know, the tornado emergency is more intense than a tornado warning, and is meant to signify a higher threat, specifically because a tornado is moving into a highly populated area. Oklahoma City happens to be that. It is the capital of Oklahoma. So it was issued for the very first time, created because of this tornado. I said it again. The remains of the Norman NWS were rebuilt. Of course, Norman NWS is still a thing, but is now Norman SPC NWS. SPC meaning Storm Prediction Center. Is now the Norman Storm Prediction Center National Weather Service. But why would you make that SPC where it got hit by a tornado? Because why not? It's a chance to rebuild it. Am I right? I mean, so the SPC was actually in Kansas at first, before this, and it was somewhere else before that. I forget where in Kansas, and I forget where it was before even then. But I do know that it's been in Norman ever since 1999. And I said this about the Andover. I said this in the Andover tornado outbreak. Never, and I do mean never, ever go under highway overpasses or underpasses for tornado protection. This tornado, at 3 separate overpasses, killed 1 person each. All 3 of those people would have probably been safe in their own homes. Now, it is true that specifically in Moore, this tornado unveiled inadequate building structures. By that I mean that a lot of foundation anchors were not even there, and if they were, they weren't attached for a lot of homes. as well as multiple other things. This is a whole separate thing on the Wikipedia article. I suggest you go look at that. A little side note about the tornado emergency here that I've have is that out of 194 emergencies, only 13, including this one, have warned actual tornadoes. And fun fact about tornado warnings in general, 3/4 of them are for just upper level rotation. So rotation that doesn't even become a tornado, or hasn't yet. And that's because Doppler has to scan above trees and into a storm, so it cannot detect something that is on the ground. But main points here are the tornado emergency, the Bridge Creek Moore F5, and the moving of the SBC to Norman, as well as the fact that you should never go under a highway overpass for tornado protection, like I just said. Please don't do that. Just don't do that. The Bridge Creek Moore F5 has its own Wikipedia article completely separate from the May 2nd to 9th outbreak itself. And if you want to read that, go right ahead. I ain't gonna stop you. But I will have to stop here. Thank you guys so much for coming to the end of this video. And I'll see you guys in the next outbreak I cover, which will be in the 2000s. This is the last outbreak that I'll be covering that is in the 1900s. Aside from that, I may do presentations on like specific tornadoes, but not but and I may not do another 1900s outbreak again. I don't know. But again, that is all that I have for you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.